Is it on? Is it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter? I don't know where else I'm gonna post this thing, but I just wanted to come on real quick. As you can probably tell, I am tired, so this is probably the wrong time to do a review, but I'm gonna do the review of The Closer by Dave Chappelle. I watched it yesterday. I've marinated on it a little bit. There are a few things that I would like to highlight from my perspective on watching it and what I thought about it. And listen, okay? Don't come out with your pitchforks and stuff. I'm gonna talk about my lived experiences, things that I've seen, and you might not agree with me, but that's okay. We all have different lived experiences and different perspectives, and so we're just gonna talk about it, okay? So calm down, because I see y'all out there acting crazy, and so anyway, I'm gonna lend my voice to it. All right, hi Carolyn, hi Danielle, hi Jennifer, hi Micah, hi Sharon. Woo, that's a lot. Hi Chandria, hi Shelly Shell. Y'all know, and listen, we've been traveling, we've been on the road for the weekends and things, and people keep saying, when is Cooking with Love coming back? And so y'all been on me about this Cooking with Love. So I'm looking at November. I think things will slow down in November. We'll be able to get back into cooking and just having fun in the kitchen. All right, so let's jump right into it. So we were driving back from Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's when I first started hearing all of this stuff about The Closer and boycott Dave Chappelle, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? Netflix special, which I like that because that meant that I didn't have to go pay $9.99 or whatever. It's on Netflix. I got Netflix, so let's watch it. Let's see what it's about. Hey Anthony. And so I came home after about a 6.5 hour trip and laid on the couch and turned it on. And my first thing with watching the show, based off of what I was hearing, I was like, I'm gonna hate this. I'm not gonna like it. And so I went into it with the mind frame or the mindset that I was gonna hate it. And I did feel that it was very cringy at times, especially in the beginning. But I didn't laugh. I didn't find a lot of it funny, but I ended up becoming like a student and really seeing it for what it was. And I wanted to learn, and I wasn't focused on it being comedy. There was a lot of truths, and I think it was done in a cringy way because, let's face it, in society today, negative stuff sells. Cringy stuff sells because it evokes an emotion or some type of emotion from the viewer. And so I thought that it was very, very well crafted, and there's some things that he highlighted that I'm just going to talk about. And I wrote down a few notes because I didn't want to miss anything. So let's talk about the black slave owner. For those that are watching, you're like, well, okay, there's several things that apply to me. One being a part of the LGBTQ community, one being black, and there are some other things. But let's talk about the black slave owner. That is one of the things that I think bothers me the most about the black community and my experiences, my lived experiences, in that you had this slave who's freed, who, because of the construct of society at the time, basically goes back, takes his freedom, and becomes a slave owner. And not only does he become a slave owner, I'm paraphrasing here, he becomes worse than the other slave owners. And you see that parallel in society today, where in the black community and in spaces where there aren't a lot of blacks, we're fighting against each other. Whose platform is bigger than the other platform? What doors can I shut so that I can, excel or get a position? And so there's a lot of that that's going on. So I thought it was beautifully crafted when he talked about that, and it makes you think. It really makes you think. And for me, when I think about society and what you need to do to get forward, people focusing on the money and all of that type of stuff, it was really interesting to hear him just to break that down. And so I thought it was, again, beautifully crafted. And you should be mindful of that. Never be afraid. I love to be around people that are smarter than me or that look at life in a different way. One of the lieutenants that I'm very good friends with at the sheriff's office, Chris, he is. I just love to see how he breaks things down. He's very analytical, and he asks really pointed questions, and I love being in the room with him. And I'm never intimidated by someone else's gift or what they bring to the table, but there are just certain people that I'm like, man, when I'm around people that have different talents, I like to see them shine, and that's important. All right, so let's talk about the LGBT agenda and why has the LGBT agenda moved so much further or so much faster than the Black agenda. And I think part of that is because we can't come together. We are always fighting amongst each other. You saw that when the NAACP was fighting against the Black Lives Matter, and all of that stuff came out in the newspaper. Within the Black community, we are constantly fighting and in turmoil within. Who's better than who's got the best stuff, who has the loudest voice, and we're so divided that we can't move ahead. We can't. And so when you look at the LGBT agenda and who's leading that agenda and how they come together, or how the movement comes together, it's clear why one has succeeded so much faster and further, further than the other. And so, in the Black community, man, we some of the things, and this isn't, we're not monolithic, and it's not everybody that views things the same, but, there's a tiered system. All right, whose skin is lighter than the other person's skin? All right, if you're gay, you're at the bottom of that list. There's just all of these things that are occurring where it's so divisive at times that we just can't come together to move forward. And that, I think that's an issue that was highlighted in that. And so we have to do better, but we do a lot of talking. There's always a lot of talking. We want to have a national committee meeting, and we want to do this meeting and that meeting, but there's not a lot of action. Like, it's an emotional thing, and that's one of the things that I get mad about with my brothers and sisters, is because, hey, we get emotional about a thing, but, give it about 3 seconds and we on to the next thing, and we didn't fix the first thing that we were emotional about. And so, in our community, these are the things that I see. I've had more doors that have been closed to me by other Black people than I have ever by white people. And I know people get offended by me saying that, but that's the truth. When I talk about straight males that are my friends, that I am close to, I can really count them on one hand. And so there's a lot of and these issues occurred because of the history. You got to go through history and stuff. This isn't a history lesson, but anyway, I'm just touching on what he was talking about, because I'm not going to go down the pipelines. We can talk about that stuff another time. So that's the LGBTQIA plus agenda versus the Black agenda. I think that's our fault. We can't blame anybody else. As a community, we just can't get it together. I don't know what it is, why it is, but it's a problem. I mean, you look at all of the billionaires and millionaires out there, and what have they done? How do we come together as a community and pool that wealth? Yes, it's yours. You've earned it. You've done your thing. But how do we come together and use that to bring up our the next generation, right? These people that get into the limelight, they want to hold on to the power so much. They don't want to let anybody else's voice heard and nobody else's talent be shown, because it's going to knock them out the way. And it's just the wrong thing. You look at the Asian community, some of these Muslim community, and just how they all work together. You mess with one, you messing with all the wealth and the family and how it's passed along. It's just different. And some of that's because of, I know all the slavery and stuff. But anyway, so that's LGBT agenda, black agenda. Let's move on. Being black and gay. As I've said, and you can go back and look at my videos for well before this, and I talk about being black and gay and how when you look at racism, racism is ingrained in the LGBTQIA plus community. It's a microcosm of the bigger community, and sometimes it's a lot worse because we're all minorities in the gay community, but yet based off of your skin color, you're treated a little bit worse at times, or you're not invited to the party. When I first gained my platform, some of the people that were the worst to me were other gay officers, the majority of whom were white. And it was very interesting to me because it was something that I struggled with. I didn't know how to take it. A lot of the nasty comments, it was weird. And then I had the black officers that were defending me, and it was just something that was really weird. Another thing that has happened that I didn't talk about at the time, a couple of years ago, I was going to be the first black face on the cover of a magazine. And they reached out, we did all the pictures and stuff, everything was sent in, and everybody was so excited about it. And I'm thinking, at the time, it was like 2018, and I'm like, the first black person, the first person of color that you've had on the cover of your magazine. That's really interesting to me. And so ultimately, a lot of talking, work was done, and then it ended up that I was in the back in a small little section, and they just didn't feel like their viewers were ready to have it switched up like that. And ultimately, the way that I handle some of these things that happen behind the scenes is like, okay, whatever. It's not important to me anyway. It was a great idea, great opportunity, but I'm on to the next thing. Like, they reached out to me, I didn't reach out to them. It is what it is. That's how I handle those things. But when you talk about segregation and these issues in the community, it is a problem. It is a problem. And so I think with Dave Chappelle bringing it up, he's highlighted these issues so that we can have conversation about it. And you look at, like, for instance, pride. There is pride, and then there's black pride, black gay pride. So we've in both the bigger community and in the LGBT community, black people, people of color, minorities have had to carve out their own spaces to feel accepted, and to feel like they've been seen as a person. And so it's really interesting. Yes, he's not, Dave Chappelle is not part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but he really did highlight a lot of the issues. So I agreed with it. I mean, a lot of the things that he was saying, when you get past how it was delivered, I was like, man, this is really interesting, bringing up a lot of good points. I'm going into dangerous territory, but we're gonna go on over there because I'm doing this thing. So let's talk about Daphne, his trans friend. That really hit home when he talked about giving her an opportunity, and when he talked about her death due to the harassment that she felt for supporting him. And it's so interesting because we put these labels on people about being transphobic, homophobic, just all these phobias and things like that. And, having had that similar experience with the LGBTQIA plus community, I identified a lot with that, and it just really stuck out to me. But moving along, let's get on into it. So he talked about the gender thing and turf, and I love everybody. And I don't care what you identify as. You can identify as a bag, a hat, or whatever. If you're a human being, you got a heart, a pulse. I love you. I don't care about any of that. But a lot of things that I don't understand is when we're talking about gender. Just this seems to be a big topic. We have people that are non-binary. We've got people that they term themselves as gender fluid. We got the pronoun thing going on. But they're just certain scientific things that are facts in life. And so I don't understand how someone's saying, he talked about J.K. Rowling where, gender is a fact. You are male or you are female. Now, how you identify can be fluid. That is on a fluid scale. But I don't understand where the discrimination comes in to say that gender is a fact. Now, we can talk a little bit more about that in that what makes a woman a woman? Or do we identify women by their genitalia or sexual organs or I hope I said that right. But what makes a woman, right? So if having kids makes a woman, then what about those biological women that can't have kids? There's a lot of things. And listen, I'm not qualified to have the question because, I'm not a woman, and I got some of the things that he was saying as far as Caitlyn Jenner being named Woman of the Year after being a woman for only a year. I think it showed how open society has become, showed some privilege there. However, at the end of the day, it boils down to respecting people. You might not understand why the decisions have been made or the transitioning and that type of stuff, but it's just simply a respect thing. But I don't think you should counsel somebody or dismiss their voice because they have a difference of opinion. I think it depends on how they treat people. So overall, I think I've touched on everything that I wanted to. And again, I want to get off of here and go to sleep. I felt like there was a lot of information that when you really sit and think about it, he's probably done more for the LGBTQIA plus community than anyone has done in a long time, because he's put these topics out into the world for people to discuss, and you're seeing it on CNN and Fox News and all these different channels, and so people are having conversations today that they probably wouldn't have had before. I'm not easily offended. I personally didn't take offense. I'm also not trans, so I can't speak for my trans brothers and sisters. And I've seen some people like Flame Moreau who've gotten on TV and said, hey, Flame Moreau is a trans person who can be very divisive and say some shocking things at times. And so we have to remember that it's not a monolithic type thing. People are going to see things and feel different things. I personally thought, wow, this is an opportunity to have a conversation of what is it like in the black community? What is it like being a black gay man in the black community and LGBT community? I thought it was fantastic. Other than that, hopefully I don't get canceled. I got a few speaking engagements this week. But I've always, one of the things with my career and everything that I do, I've purposefully set myself up so that you can't cancel me, okay? And what do I mean by that? Nowhere near Dave Chappelle's level, but I've learned that if you allow people to give you stuff, then they can take it away. And so that's why everything that I do, I go into it without thinking that there's going to be anything coming out of it for me in terms of money and things like that. So music video, music that's coming out, book, motivational speaking, all of that stuff, I pour into it, and I don't really take much out because I realized that people, you see it on social media all the time. Like if somebody gets mad at you, they're like, oh, I'm going to unfriend you, or oh, I'm not going to support you in this way or that way. And it's a weird thing to have that much control over someone. And so I'm very mindful when I do things. And my husband hates when I say this, but I am very much aware that I don't want to give too much power away. So, you know, other than somebody telling me, oh, well, we no longer need your services. Anything much else you can take away from it. So, at any rate, so I don't get what the hype is about. I think when you talk about trans lives and how this is the deadliest year for Black trans people, and I don't think most people knew that. And so I think that that's another conversation to be had. And the final conversation before I get off of here is we could talk about the mindset that when a trans person is killed, that the person didn't know, the male didn't know. Usually it is a male that's killing a trans male to female. Not to say that other things don't occur, but that's the majority of the cases. And the reality of it is it's not that they don't know, they just can't handle the persecution, the ridicule, the judgment that comes from society when people find out that these men who identify as straight are trans attracted. And so because of that, people will go just out there to beyond what you would think to protect themselves and their reputation, because a lot of times that's all that they have. And so these issues are important to be aware of, but it's hard because there are barriers to it. When you look within the Black community, focusing on the Black community, when you bring in religion, and you tie that to all of the history within the Black community, it's really hard for there to be an awareness, and then for there also to be some compassion and empathy when we have the conversations. So at the end of the day, I hope this isn't going to be something that, as it plays out over the next couple of weeks or so, I hope that it's not going to be something that's going to end up being, you know, gay people against the world or trans people against the world. I hope it just really keeps the conversation flowing, keeps the ideas flowing, and keeps people engaged. That is all that I have to say. I saw a comment, but I didn't want to lose my, somebody had asked a comment. Hold on. So Gerald, he says, is it our fault? I encourage you to take an African American study class so you can understand your history better. So I don't believe that I said that it was our fault. Assigning blame and talking about the reality of our culture and what many people face is two different things. And so I'm fully aware of why things are happening the way that they are. But the issue becomes within the Black community is when do we make a change, right? A lot of these things are passed down generation after generation after generation. A lot of these things come from the construct of slavery. I mean, you can tie so many of these things. You look at some of the cuss words, or I'm not going to get into that right now, but like buck breaking and different things that happened and how they have been passed down. So I'm fully aware. However, regardless of who's at fault, we have to talk about the issues. So at some point, at some point we've got to move beyond who's at fault. Say this is the issue, and what are we going to do to fix it? I don't want to go to no more conferences and no more national meetings and all that kind of stuff. What are we doing at the roots level to fix these issues? Because this is, I mean, it's been going on well before I came on this earth, and it's continuing to go on. So that's how I look at it. What other question was up there real quick? Why do you think there is a divide? Why is there colorists? This wasn't started by the black community. Oh, so we're still in, okay, Gerald was coming on in. I'm sorry, Gerald. I don't know if you're still there. Why do you think there's a divide? So these things, again, a lot of it stems from slavery. Some of it stems from the government's intervention and interaction within the black community. And so that's a whole other conversation to have. Okay, how long have I been on here? Because I want to make sure I'm high yellow. But we could definitely have that. Gerald, I would love to have the conversation. Love to have the conversation. We could talk about it. Charlie says lots of teachable moments. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. All right. Well, love you all. Please be safe. Have a great week. And I will talk at you soon, okay? Bye.